I watched a video by Bro Justin. Although he's not my brother, I don't like the man. He's, of course, an older man. Um, he's interesting. He's a Mason. He does Masonic symbols. Masonry at its root is Satanism. It's basic Satanism. That's why they have Masonic temples. Just like the Greeks had temples and the Romans had temples. And even the Jews had a temple. Actually had temples. It is July 24th, Saturday, 2010. It is the wee hours of the morning. Good morning. At least from my perspective. The emerging church thing. He was talking about the emerging church. He was putting them into one thing. I was always wondering what this stuff was. I've seen a little bit of it. After I stopped going to church, somebody who was a friend of mine or somebody I knew said, "Oh, come to our church." I said, "Okay, all right. It's new, it's really different. I see you ever hear this stuff. It's new, it's really different. It's going to be, you're going to like it, all this stuff." It's this kind of crap. I don't deal in Calvinism and Arminianism and stuff like that because to me it's irrelevant. But this emergent church stuff I think is relevant. I'm not interested in theories that supposedly pertain to Christianity, but Christianity itself. The emerging church, I've been trying to put my finger on what the hell this stuff is. In that, how's it different? And it's a more modern type of popularist church. The idea is we're happy to preach to you truths about the Bible. We're happy to this goes. This is one of the reasons I had trouble discerning what was the difference in this stuff. We'll do truths about the Bible and all that stuff. But it's a lot like other churches. They'll do the same thing. Truths about the Bible, Christian principles, perhaps. Christian this and Christian that. But we won't do anything that hurts your feelings. I'll say that I'm not interested, hurt your feelings or something you don't want to hear. The emergent church, it seemed like a nasty little turn. But I'm figuring out the emergent church is just kind of a modern, preppy, nice dress down type thing where people wear these California style clothing, which is fine. And the whole kind of yuppie, you're this class, you dress like this, you're a youth, all this stuff. The improving upon I hope my refrigerator doesn't need a new belt. See it, real life. You won't see that a lot on YouTube, real life. Now when it comes to Christianity, it's considered false. And it's the same thing with the emerging church. the emergent church, the emergent church. And I've read some are a distinction. The football stadium, here's a television screen, and you can watch live the speakers, you can see them better, all this stuff. Seems to me like more Benny Hinn type stuff. And the whole please everybody. It's big into please everybody. We don't need, first of all, we don't need this church, that church, the other church. Christianity speaks of the ecclesia, the assembly, or the called out. The called out to gather. A group of people called out. Like you go to a rock concert or whatever. A rock concert, if you do that, or a symphony concert, the people that are called out to gather. We don't need Baptists. We don't need Catholics. Jesus didn't need Baptists. Jesus didn't need Catholics. He didn't have time for the Pharisees. I think it's time for people to realize that the Catholics and the Baptists are the Pharisees and Sadducees. And if that seems like such a little bit of a stretch, the Pharisees and the Sadducees, which Jesus both complained about, and the scribes, which he also complained about, he said, you insult us too. And Jesus said, and you scribes. The emerging church isn't there to live a Christian life. It isn't there to teach things, nor is it not teach really anything that people really need to know. Nor is the Baptist Church, nor is the Catholic Church, nor is the Lutheran Church, nor is all the Pentecostal Church, all these churches. And I get the question repeatedly, what church do you go to? Doesn't matter. Well, what doctrines do you follow? And that's not categorized. I follow Jesus Christ. And the emergent church wants to sprinkle fairy dust on it, or sprinkles on it like on a cookie. Like we have modern days now. You've got the artificially colored sugar little clumps on there that you put on stuff. It doesn't need anything. This is the reason we've got the problem. People tell you again. I think a lot of liars. It's hard to see the truth. The Pharisees and Sadducees were separate groups. They were opposite groups. And they thought that they had their own opinions and they were right. The Pharisees acknowledge angels. What we call angels today, what's that? Just like church, it's a wrong name for it. Messengers, I believe, is the correct translation. Where we get the word evangelism from and the word gospel from. The same word was derived from messenger. We don't need these groups. We had Jesus. There was one Jesus. Paul said, is Christ divided? Jesus didn't start different groups. He didn't have different groups. His primary disciples were the 12 and the women, including Luke, who was a youth, and maybe some other youths, but basically the 12 men and the women. You didn't have two Jesuses. You had one body. I pray that they be one, Jesus says. When you've got people that say, well, I won't gather over the Catholic Church because I'm Baptist or I'm not Catholic. the Lutherans who won't go to the Catholic Church, you're dividing up. Paul said, is Christ divided? Jesus said, I pray that they be one. Jesus said, as I am one with you, so may they be one, that the world may know. See, this is important. To be one, so the world may know that you sent me. Not to be emergent church, not to be a deviation of the church, to be the ecclesia of God, the called out of God. I'll finish this in a second video, I think.